Hi, it's Nancy with Garden Scroll. So we finished 2 whole years in the garden, and we're going to be starting our 3rd year in 2020, which it will be 2020 when I get this post on. Right now it's actually December the 28th, and I'm going to try to start taking my tree down today, even though I love to keep it up until at least New Year's Day. And then but we do have other things in the works, so probably better get it started now. But I hope you're looking forward to the 3rd year in the garden, and we'll see what God has in store for us in the garden. I'm anxious, or I will be. Right now I'm totally enjoying my rest period. Not a lot of rest, but when you try to do everything you do and then keep up a good-sized garden, it does get extremely tiring, frustrating, and all that stuff. But you also get all those little moments when something new blooms in the garden, and I'm loving having the opportunity to show you what's growing in the garden at a certain time. So I hope you continue to watch, and please like and subscribe to our channel. So I'm going to clean house a little bit today, and this is the way I clean house. I find all kinds of other things to do instead of actually clean, but I will get to it. I will. I must. But this, I just had to take time out for how the sun is shining through on this Wandering Jew. These are just little clippings, of course, that I put in the window, and I will put these, they are rooted, and I'll put these in next spring's garden, and they'll be beautiful. I purchased a new pot for my asparagus, or I'm sorry, not asparagus, but foxtail fern, and I got a bigger pot, and I'm hoping, and I put some more perlite in it, hoping that it will help my little fern, because it definitely does have some brown spots on it, or pieces on it, and where they're falling off. And I also read a little bit about them, that I need to maybe spray it with water so that it'll get water there without drowning it on the root. So I'm going to try that. And then this little airplane plant got the red pot that the foxtail fern was in. This, I don't know. It was so beautiful. You can actually look back in some of the more recent posts. This one was just flourishing, but then it laid down, and I thought it needs some water, so I gave it some more water. And then when I actually put it, it still didn't stand up. When I actually put it in this pot, it was too wet, and the middle part had totally died out. So I'm gonna try again, and I had some little airplane babies, or spider, whatever you call this plant. We usually call it an airplane plant, but anyway, I put those inside there too. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm hoping they will root, but you know, I don't have a lot of luck with houseplants. But as you can see, I am getting better, so I'm going to have to take pride in that and stop saying that I can't do them. Because as I've said, you are snared by the words of your mouth, and I'm going to stop saying that I can't do it, and I'm going to say, by the helping grace of God, I'm going to learn how to do all this stuff that I haven't been able to do in the past. Oh, and I almost forgot to say that while I was getting my pots, I found this little fern. This is is it a maidenhair fern? I think so. What does it say here? Let me take a quick look at this. Rosy maidenhair fern. So I've been wanting to try this, so I'm going to try it now, and it may just be a house plant. I actually thought these were like in our zone to be kept outside even, but I may not risk it. I think this is such a cute little airy filigree type of a lacy foliage, and I think I'm going to love it if I can make it live. Hi, it's Nancy welcoming you to Gardens Grow. Happy New Year. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your new year of 2020. I'm excited that this is the start of a third year of putting the garden on YouTube, all through the season of the garden. So this season, of course, is winter and everything looks dead, but there's a little bit of green, and the things that are green, a lot of them, of course, there's life still going on, even though it doesn't look like it right now. But when it gets warm enough and the time of the season is right, little green will start to poke up, and we'll trim away all the old dead dry stuff, and the garden will just begin all over again. I also wanted to say that I told you that we keep brought on Christmasing, but I didn't know that I was going to get a surprise this morning when we went to our local diner on Main Street in Weatherford. And we have all of our little waitresses are so sweet to us, but one of them, Abby, thank you so much. Look what she brought me. She said, I have a Christmas present for you. I just love orbs. I told her that too. And she said, and you can't get too many angels, because she knows, looking at the garden post, that I love angels. So thank you again, Abby. I appreciate it very much. Certainly made my day. Today's post, we're going to talk about how the garden exemplifies life. And it does in so many ways. But to begin with, there's spring in the garden, when everything is new and tender and just beginning, and you have all that anticipation, what it's going to look like, how it's going to do. Is it going to just be prolific and be like, I want my calabachoas to be, and I've never been able to get them but one time here in Oklahoma, but I'm going to keep trying. But you have all that hope for the newness of life, and just to see what it will become. So the spring in the garden is also like the spring of our life when we have that new baby, and you have to look at every little thing, the ears, the toes, the fingers, everything is so exciting. It's so wonderful. And they're wonderful all by themselves, but your mind goes on. You imagine how they're going to be when they grow up, what they might be. And spring is like that in the garden and in our lives. Spring is a wonderful time. It's probably my favorite time. And of course, the next season is summer. And part of summer is really wonderful, because everything is in now. You've got the whole garden in, and you're beginning to watch it really grow and flourish. But then the heat comes on, and it begins to scorch things. You actually lose some things. Some things just don't make it through that scorching heat. But then you regroup and you go on. You put a new flower in there, a new plant, something that you're pretty sure might make it, and just try again. So, and then of course there's the overgrowth where you cannot walk through the path because it's the overgrowth of the garden is there, and you're going to have to trim and clip, and you're going to be so busy, and it's so hot you don't want to be out there, and sweat's going to be dripping, and frustration is going to be there, and it's just hard. It's just a very hard time in the garden. And then that certainly applies to our life, because when we're in the big middle of the summer of our life, we're having our children, we're getting established in our jobs, or moving from job to job. We're getting it going one way or the other. But we've got so many irons in the fire. We've got irons on the back burner. We've got iron in our hand. We're just too busy to even look up and see our children grow. It's just a hard time in life sometimes. Some things we get established and some things we lose. But life, somehow we get through summer. And summer is just kind of a division of beauty and wonder and spring rains, and then also the scorching heat, the overwork, the frustration, the stress. The little plants even get stressed, and that's the way it is in our lives too. During that period of our lives, we can get really stressed. And then there's fall in the garden, and fall brings cooler weather. It brings a renewal in the garden. Things just start renewing themselves, and you can clip back some of the stuff, and it'll just be almost like spring, only with fuller, lusher growth. It's just, fall is right next to spring in wonder in my book. And I love fall. It's never long enough for me, but I love fall. And then that's the way the fall of our lives can be too. Sometimes we may get to retire. We may have a little more time. We'll have more family members most likely, because our kids will have introduced us to their spouses. And we have those new family members, and maybe some of us have grandchildren. And it just goes on, and you get to see that, and you get to reflect, and there's a peace. There's a peace and a hope, and just that wonder of fall that's just close to the wonder of spring, and yet not quite the same. Some people say it's better because it's like when your kids are growing up, you're just learning yourself. That's your new experience, and you're so responsible for them that you don't get to enjoy them as much as you would love to. You do get to enjoy them, but it's not the same as when that grandbaby comes along and you get to spend some time with them maybe. And it's just wonder. Everybody says that I know says that grandchildren are even greater than children, and that's kind of hard to see, but they can be. I know that's true, and I have some wonderful grandchildren, so I know that it's just that renewing of life, that hope for a new generation, and the fact that you've been part of that generation, and it just makes it wonderful. And last, there's winter. Winter in the garden means things are going dormant. It means we brought plants inside and we're trying to save them for next spring's garden. It's a time of rest too. It's a time of peace, but it's also a time when things are dying, and you look out in the garden, all the color is gone, and you find a place of warmth and hunker down till you get through winter. And then that's kind of the way it is in our lives too, because in the winter of our lives, we know we're in the last years. Even though we don't really know it, we do really know it. It's just a hard, thin, fine line, because you want to just enjoy that time. Sometimes you want to go on and be in that other home, and you've got a link on the other side. Your family chain has linked and linked and linked, and some of it is up there in heaven. And then, of course, there's a lot of it still here on earth, but there's more and more you would like to go home for. And then also, it's like what I said in the very first part of this post, that there is life there. We just can't see it, but at the right season, we'll see it again. And I do believe that is how life is. We can't see the people that have gone on. We wish we could. We have our memories, and we love those memories, and they're a part of us. If you have someone you love, that person will live on in your heart as long as you're alive, and you'll teach your children, and they may not have the same kind of love for that person you did, but they know that you loved that person, and they'll remember that person through you. And that's just the way the winter dormancy is. it's also a renewing and a beginning, but you can't see it yet. It's there. There's just so much information and so much wonder about just the garden and the Word of God, and just thinking on these things about how the garden exemplifies our life, and the seasons of in the garden and the seasons of our life. It brings me to think about the wise men's Solomon, and I'm going to read a little bit out of Ecclesiastes. But I was going to say that I was thinking of the scriptures that tell us that we cannot find out everything there is to find out. And I've also been thinking a little bit about, like when he said that, well, you know, even the wisest men that know all this stuff and can actually quote the Bible, and just there's just so much. And even Solomon said it's all forgotten, and who's going to know who's going to be after him, if it will matter to anybody. But it's just, it can get mind-boggling to think about all those things. And I think about myself spending a lot of time on this and not knowing if it's to any avail at all. But I also know that anything we do for the Lord, there's some purpose there, and it doesn't have to be for everybody, but whatever God has a purpose for our life, we wouldn't be here if he didn't. So I'm going to read to you Ecclesiastes 3 from the King James Version of the Bible. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What profit hath he that worketh in that wherein he laboureth? I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of man to be exercised in it. He hath made everything beautiful in his time. Also he has set the world in their heart, so that no man can find the work that God maketh from beginning to end. I know that there is no good in them but for a man to rejoice and to do good in his life, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy all the good of his labor. It is the gift of God. I know that whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it, nor anything taken from it, and God doeth it, that men should fear before him. And then Ecclesiastes 8 and 17. Then I beheld all the work of God, that a man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun, because though a man labor to seek it out, yet he shall not find it. Yea, farther, though a wise man think to know it, yet shall he not be able to find it. So I'm considering that not even a lifetime is enough to know everything we should know about the Lord, nor is everybody else's lifetime a history of everything that we've ever known enough to encompass what the Lord has for us to know and to learn and to be and to just to seek him out. But Ecclesiastes 9 says, for all this I considered in my heart, even to declare all this, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of God. No man knoweth either love or hatred by all that is before him. And 1 Corinthians 8, and if any man think that he know anything, he knoweth nothing yet as he ought to know. But if any man love God, the same is known of him.